Hey guys, so I wanted to go over our math for this week. We are going to be working on equivalent fractions. And you guys did really good when we were doing this in school, but I do know it has been a little bit since you've had to do very much with fractions. So I wanted to go over a couple different things with you to help remind you some of the things that we needed to be doing during our equivalent fractions. So a couple quick things first. When we look at a fraction, we need to know what the two numbers are called. So our top number is called the numerator. And our bottom one, the one that's down, we say denominator, down, down, down. We know the denominator is on the bottom. Oops. So we need to know our numerator and our denominator when we're finding equivalent fractions. And also let's look at this word equivalent. We need to remember that equivalent means equal. We hear the beginning of the word equal and equivalent. So we are trying to find this week fractions that are the same, or saying, hey, these two fractions are not equivalent. So when we look at these fractions, one way that we can do this is we could draw them. So I could have a fraction of half, and I could make my pie. My denominator says it's split into two pieces. My numerator says that one of them I ate. And then I could look at another fraction. I could say like 3/6. So, okay, are they equal? I'm going to split it into 6 pieces. And my numerator says I need to eat 3 of them. So I look at my pictures, I say, hey, did I eat the same amount on both pies? Even though I ate 1 piece here and 3 pieces here, did I eat the same amount of pie in total at the end? Well, yeah. I ate half of both, so these would be equivalent. But we do know that sometimes drawing is difficult. Sometimes it takes a long time. And sometimes when we get into crazy things like divide this up into 16ths, it gets really hard to do that perfectly. So we need to have a better way of doing this. So we're going to use some of our math. So one way that I can do this is by cross multiplying. Remember, we would say cross multiply like a butterfly. We're going to cross multiply these denominators, or these fractions, sorry. So I am going to do 6 times 1. And I'm going to put my answer on the top. I'm going to cross multiply and put the answer at the top. 6 times 1 is 6. And then I'm going to cross multiply the other side. Remember how it kind of looks like butterfly wings? So 2 times 3 is 6. These two numbers at the top are the exact same number. So I do know 6 and 6 are equal, so my two fractions are equal. So that is one way that you can check that your fractions are equivalent. Another way that I like to look at fractions and see if they're equivalent, and actually this is one that I use most often, and I think once you get the hang of this one, it's actually a lot easier to use and it is way quicker. But you're going to have to visualize these fractions in your head. You're going to have to picture, what do these look like in order to do this? So I'm going to look at 2/3, and in my mind I'm going to picture a pie, a circle, a square, whatever shape you would like. Squares, circles, rectangles are typically what we use. And I'm going to split that into 3 pieces. And then I'm going to visualize what 2 of those pieces would look like. So in my mind, I'm thinking of this, and I'm thinking to myself, is it bigger or smaller than a half? I know that 2/3 is bigger than a half. Half is a really easy one. We can all visualize that in our head. So 2/3, I'll draw it out since you can't see what's going on in my head. It is bigger than a half. But remember, I don't have to draw this. I'm thinking about this in my head. So I'm going to look at 2/8, okay? So in my head, I made that same pie. I can easily think of fourths. And so if I split them both up again, I have 8 pieces. And if I color in 2 of those, I'm thinking of this in my head, that is way smaller than a half. Well, if I know this is bigger than a half, and I know this is smaller than a half, are they equal? Well, no. Bigger than a half, smaller than a half, this fraction is going to be much bigger. And the pictures in my head, or the ones that I drew for you guys, will also show you the same thing. 2/3 is bigger than 2/8. if you want to double check yourself and cross multiply, we can do that as well. So remember, we're going to cross multiply like a butterfly. So we're going to do our 2 times 8, which is 16, and 3 times 2, which is 6. We definitely know 16 is bigger than 6. So in my fractions, well, hey, I got the same answer. 2/3 is bigger than 2/8. So I can use this trick in my head. It was way faster, especially if I wasn't drawing it for you guys. I was just visualizing it. And I double checked myself by cross multiplying. Now, another way that we might look at equivalent fractions, we learned or remembered now how to compare 2 fractions to see if they're the same. But what if I just give you a fraction and I want to know, hey, what's the same as 2/5? So remember, this is where we look at our rule that whatever we do to the top, we've got to do to the bottom. So if I have 2/5, I can pick any number other than 1 and 0 because they're not going to do much. And I'm going to multiply my top and bottom number by that. So 2 is an easy one. So if I take 2 times 2 and 5 times 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 5 times 2 is 10. So this is telling me that 2/5 is the same as 4/10. If you don't believe me, let's cross multiply real quick. 4/10, cross multiply. 2 times 10 is 20. 4 times 5 is 20. So 2/5 is the exact same thing, or is equivalent to 4/10. Well, maybe I want to find another equivalent fraction, so I can take 2/5. I can pick any other number I want. Pick something easy. Maybe I can do times 3. Whatever I did to the top, I've got to do to the bottom. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 3 is 15. So if 2/5 is the same as 4/10, and 2/5 is the same as 6/15, does that mean that 4/10 is the same as 6/15? Well, let's check. If I have 4/10 and 6/15, we're going to cross multiply to double check. So 4 times 15. Ooh, I do not know this one in my head. So let's do off to the side 15 times 4. I am doing traditional method. Remember, I always tell you guys it's so much faster. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So I get an answer of 60. And then 6 times 10 is 60. Because they are the same. 2/5 is an equivalent to 4/10, which is equivalent to 6/15. And I could keep going over and over again. I could take 2/5 and multiply by any number I wanted, as long as the top and bottom are the same, and I would get equivalent fractions. I could do 100, 200, 500 is equivalent to 4/10. So you can find equivalent fractions that way as well.